I knew that I could do a good job at representing Israel and Judaism. And I was afraid that if someone else were to do it, they might not do it as well, or there would be a different representation. And I know that my narrative is very different from what the world has ever seen. They don't know that Sephardic women that looks a bit dark and has a lot of these backgrounds. So I thought this was really an opportunity to show a different type of Jewish women.
Welcome to JLM Unplugged, a podcast about Olim for Olim. I am Gabi Danieli.
And I'm Michal Cohn. We are Aliyah coordinators for the Jerusalem Municipality. We are here to assist and navigate Olim in their Aliyah journey from the initial planning to the final landing and beyond.
Join us as we bring you life stories, experiences, and special guests that you know and love here from our capital city. JLM Unplugged. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here, JLM Unplugged, with a very special dear guest, fellow Canadian, a representative of Jewish women in the world. By the way, I call her the love queen. She loves Jerusalem, she loves Israel, she loves the Jewish people. She's a social media guru, our very special own guest, Cindy. How are you?
What an introduction. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's really an honor to have you here.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Michal, our dear co-host, special person in my life. See her 10 hours a day. Michal has also gotten married here in Israel. Met her husband here in Israel. Married a half Israeli, really from Philly, but he served in the army, so that counts.
It's definitely fully American, but we can pretend he's half Israeli.
Right. And as much as I'm super excited that you're here, Michal, without a doubt, this is really an honor for both of us, and she's super excited. And I think she has a small story to share, even a little bit about you, because I'm not sure that you even remember. But this is great. This is great. I'm surrounded here with two Sephardi women, which makes me so happy.
Yes, Sephardic representation. Right. Let's go.
So, Michal, I don't know. Please, would you do us the honor of sharing a story?
Sure. I'm so happy you brought it up.
Yeah.
So actually, I think around 2 years ago or something like that, right after I was watching the show, I was on a bus and then I did a double take. I'm like, oh my God, that's Cindy. And I think there's that known, aspect of you see someone who's on TV, but they also have a life and they're also a person and you probably get it a lot. So for me, I was trying to navigate how to do that. Okay, don't talk to her, leave her alone, who knows where she's going, all that kind of stuff. And then it turned out that we were on the same bus and then the same train for 2 hours straight. Oh my God. Next to each other the whole time. And then at a certain point, I was like, you know what? Okay, I should just say something.
I think I remember this.
Do you remember this?
I
wow.
think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good memory. Because you probably get this a lot. I mean,
were you sitting right beside me?
On the bus. And then afterwards, I was standing next to you.
A little, okay, well, awesome.
Yeah. You don't want to come off as a stalker too. But for me, it was going on in my head, okay, wow, I think Olim in Israel and especially in Jerusalem, a lot of people know each other. It's a small world, and
yeah.
It's a nice feeling because it also makes you feel like a community too.
For sure.
But I think even more so, when you're put on a Netflix show, Jewish matchmaking, if anyone doesn't know about it, we'll get into it.
Right.
And then you're living in this, small city. It's a big city, but it feels small.
Yeah.
Surrounded by Olim, and Pitom, a lot of people know who you are. A lot of people associate you with something specific. And I guess I want to hear, honestly, from you, how do you navigate that? Being on a Netflix show, and then once the show's over, you're still in Jerusalem, you're still a regular Ola like all of us, and you have your own life. And, do people come up to you still? Do people bother you?
So people do come up to me still, and it's very interesting because... So wherever I'll go around the world, there'll always be someone that comes up to me.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy. It's always from the Jewish community. It's always someone... I've had very little non-Jews come up to me, but still. Right. And it's incredible. But most of the time, I would say 80% of the time, it's going to be in Jerusalem. Right. But what I love even more about Jerusalem is that I was recognized before the show. So when I was just a baby influencer, and people would just kind of be like, yeah, Israel with Cindy? I'm like, only in Jerusalem. I would get recognized nowhere else. But yeah.
And is it something that how do you relate to it? Is this something that bothers you? Is this something that's exciting? What do people say to you? Do they just say hi and want a
I
picture
love
and
it.
walk away?
I'm a very social person,
Yeah.
so I'm always like, I love talking to people. I love to get to know people, and I think it's so special. Like, not everybody has the chance to be on the other side of that. So I think that I enjoy it. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, I love talking to people. I get to know tons of people that way, so it's fun.
Awesome. Next time I'm in Ben Yehuda or in soccer, I'm running over.
Absolutely.
We're going to shout your name out loud from across the city.
That's happened to me before.
That's awesome. So you grew up in Toronto.
I did.
Where in Toronto?
In Thornhill.
No way.
Yeah.
Bathurst and Clark?
No, Young and Center. It's a little bit more.
Okay, I know
Thornhill.
Young and Center, of course. There's like the car dealerships over there.
Yeah.
Center Point used
which
to
is
be
now
that.
condos.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, they've got.
And where'd
rid
you
of
go to
all
school?
I actually went to public school.
Okay.
Didn't go to Jewish school, but everyone in my school was Jewish type
Right.
situation.
Was that Thornhill Secondary? Was it?
No, I went to Langstaff because I did French immersion because I was born in France.
Okay, fine. Amazing. Oh wow. My neighbor actually went there. Avital's something. I don't remember her last name.
Yeah.
Lots of Israelis go there.
Yeah.
It's a famous school. And your background, your parents are from where?
So my mom is Italian Tunisian, and then my dad is also Italian Turkish, but I mean he's three generations French at this point.
Oh wow.
So we have a little bit of Israelis call me a salad,
That's a big size salad.
That's
and
great.
I also have like inside like Libyan and all these different types of Spanish, Portuguese. So it's
So you're
really
basically the kibbutz galuyot
yeah.
of Sephardic Jews in one
I really
person.
am.
That's
I
amazing.
can trace back
Yeah.
till the Spanish Inquisition is what
Whoa.
my family knows. So basically last summer I did discovering Sephardic heritage roots trip to Spain.
Okay, wow.
And I did the entire Andalusia, and we basically were trying to find our family roots. But we do know that we came from Spain, and then in 1492 we went to Portugal for about a year.
Right.
We know that we worked in the King's Court or something like
Okay,
that for a
wow.
bit on my mom's side. Then we went to Italy, where we spent most of our time until we were kicked out as well to Libya, and then from Libya, Tunisia, and then Tunisia, France. And on my dad's side, it was more... They went directly from Spain to Turkey, and then my grandmother is from a little island off the coast of Tunisia called Djerba.
Oh, of course.
And yeah, so I'm sure
Wow.
Is this
No,
just
it's
known
amazing.
information?
No, you gotta understand.
I never know, really. He knows
it's
every
very
place.
cool.
It's really cool. When I was a kid, I was very into like the lost tribes of Israel.
Yeah.
And whatever. I grew up in Toronto. I went to the Sephardic Kehillah Center at one point in my life, and they're Tangerian Jews, meaning they're Spanish Moroccans. Mm-hmm. So a lot of like the history is related to like Algerians and Tunisians and everything. And when I was doing my research on the 12 Lost Tribes, I forget, Simcha Yakubovich is the movie editor or the film editor, and at one point he's saying that there's an island off Tunisia called Djerba where they have the pure DNA for Kohanim. So I know your last name is Cohen and not a Cohen.
Yes.
But they do have a pure DNA of all Kohanim are from like trace back.
That's me.
Wow.
So really,
So my grandmother is.
Look at that.
So my grandmother is a direct descendant from the Kohanim that came, from the destruction of the
Wow.
temple,
Wow.
and she's the first to marry out of the Kohanim.
Okay.
Just because there was not much people left,
Right.
she married my grandfather. But now my husband's a Kohen, so I think it's
Wow,
full
look at
circle.
that. connect.
Wow,
Wow,
wow.
that's amazing.
Wow.
Right, I actually saw your husband do Birkat Kohanim on Shabbat. I have to say, I didn't know it was your husband
Small
at the time.
world.
Here,
Yeah,
speak of
it's-
small world.
I'm telling you that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say where you live, but the area that we were on, it was really cool. Special man.
Yeah.
So Toronto, Thornhill,
Yeah.
French immersion. What came next?
So after I studied at Glendon. I don't know if you know it.
No, I actually don't.
it's the
first.
French campus of York University.
Oh, wow. That's not on Kiel. Is
No,
that-
it's
okay.
Eglinton and Bayview, like
Okay.
in Bayview and yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually really nice. It's really beautiful, and I refounded the Hillel at my school, like at Glendon, which actually became the second most popular club on campus.
Really?
Surprisingly, for a school that only has 50 Jews, but it was mostly non-Jews. We were the second most popular after the LGBT club.
Okay, wow.
Which
That's
is
so
pretty.
funny.
I take credit for that. And
So
then,
how did you do that? Begin the Hillel there? Did you contact Hillel? What happened?
Yeah, I was always very involved in the Jewish community in Toronto, and I did a lot of volunteering. I worked with Aish, I worked with Hillel, I worked with all of them, UJ, all that good stuff. And I did want to do something in my school. I felt like there was missing that kind of Jewish spark, and it was Jewish and Israel representation.
Okay, amazing.
So yeah, and then I contacted Hillel, and yeah.
And you started a club there. Wow. Amazing. I'll tell you, when I was at York University, I was there for like one semester, maybe like 3 weeks. I actually attended. They had an anti-Israel rally, and we're talking already 2010, maybe? No, or much earlier, 2005.
Yeah.
And our Hillel actually at York was surrounded, and we couldn't come out. This is already back then.
Yes.
So like today, it's a whole.
It's I can't even
escalated.
imagine.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Wow, okay, so you did
But
Hillel.
my school was pretty good. Like we actually were
Right.
very, very open and great. I hardly had any problems, and a lot of the people that came to hear us were non-Jews. So it was actually, I think we did some good work. I don't know if it could be done today,
Right.
but
Right. And did you guys have like a Hillel rabbi and like Shabbat dinners
did.
and everything?
we
So
did.
you
But
were,
it was
really-
like it was the Aish rabbi at the
Oh
time.
wow, who's that at the time?
Mark Zelonka.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Of course. I'm not gonna say. I think he lives next to Chabad.
he does.
Right? Awesome.
You're telling everyone's address.
Yeah,
on
everyone's address here. JLM, we're unplugged. Wow. Okay, so Thornhill. I have to ask this because you relate to me for sure. Michal as well. Michal's a little bit from New York.
Yeah.
But you can definitely relate to like East Coast weather. How do you handle it with like all the sweating here? Like, how do you deal with the heat? Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Me? Are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
Oh,
I deal with the heat.
I don't handle it. I hate the heat. I love
Yeah,
the cold.
Right. Me too. That's my only thing. Like people ask me, like, okay, what is it? The one thing you would choose to change? I think just the
heat.
weather.
I agree. Well, I mean, also the conflict, but
Right. Yeah. I don't get into politics.
That's a very fair point.
The bombs.
Right. Yeah. The bombs and everything like that. May God, at this thing, we'll take a moment to say there should be peace around the world and
Amen.
amongst the Jewish people for sure, and all our soldiers who are fighting right now at this moment while we're recording in the north. Hashem should protect them. Okay. Now, how'd you get to Israel? That's the real story.
That's the real story.
Yeah. A Thornhill girl coming to Israel.
So it kind of continues on the story
Right.
of my life. So post university, I started working for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Toronto for part of the
Oh, whoa.
Toronto consulate. So I was doing I was head of public diplomacy and academic affairs for Toronto and Western Canada, and and there we worked all kinds of different things, and I did PR and I did social media, and I did mostly working with universities, which again I think today that job I probably want to throw myself off somewhere, but I loved it, and I absolutely loved working with all these people in the consulate, and I decided, but I wanted to move to Israel, and I knew I wanted to move to Israel, so I decided to make the leap, and part of that we did a program called Israel with Cindy was born through the foreign ministry.
I didn't
Was
know
that
that.
when you were already working in Toronto in the embassy there?
Yeah, so it was follow
Okay.
Cindy's journey as a new Ola from Canada, and it was
Wow.
hashtag Israel with Cindy. At the
Oh,
time, it
wow.
was just a
Okay.
hashtag.
Okay.
And then it became, I kind of took it forward. But at the beginning, that's what my Instagram was all about. It was about, Olim coming into Israel and what to do and what to expect. And
Right.
it was all very humorous. And so I decided to move because I always wanted to move, and I kind of had this like trigger moment story. I don't know if we have time for it. But.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
No, for sure, please.
But so basically, I was running this trip with Aish Fellowships.
Okay.
I'm sure you know it was like a month-long trip here in Jerusalem,
Right.
and I was madricha, and I was in charge of speaking after Ar Herzl and Yad Vashem.
Okay.
I was like, what am I gonna say? Like, I don't know. And everyone was older than me. I was like, I don't know what to say. So I went up and I said to everyone, everyone put your head down. And I said, we come to Israel and we love Israel, and we come for the beach and the food and the people, and we're like, yeah, hummus, na. And then what happens when there's a siren? What happens when stuff starts hitting the fan?
Right.
Yeah.
I say we all like go jump on our planes and run back to, our other homes while we wait that this home feels better, and then we come back. And I said, a loving relationship is one where you love someone for the good and the bad. It's not just the good.
Right.
And as I was saying that, I was like, damn
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, oh no. And I ended up just convincing myself, didn't convince anyone
That's
else.
great.
But I realized that I needed to be here for the good and the bad. And if I truly, really love this place, then I wanted to be here for all of it.
Right.
And so that was my trigger. And then 2.5 years later, I was here.
Wow. How did your family, respond to your decision?
At the beginning, it was World War III a little bit in my
Wow.
house. Because I'm the baby, my parents were like, why? Why would you leave Canada, And
Which is very true. A lot of Canadians have this problem
Yeah.
to like detach themselves from Toronto.
yeah.
And
'Cause
even though
it's
it's
so
a Zionist
comfortable.
community there, it's like very into Israel, very supportive of Israel. It's a lot like New York and the Five Towns in the sense of like, okay, Israel's like our home, but we're okay right here, right now.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's like that for a lot of Jews around the world because
Right.
it's that love that we have for our countries. But now, they're very proud of, most of my family's here now. My parents have also made Aliyah, but they
Wow.
do
Okay,
half-half type
yeah.
thing. And they're all like, yeah, the future's in Israel. So it's all really changed.
Right.
But the beginning, I think it was a little...
And
Tough
did you
one.
make Aliyah to Jerusalem or to a different city?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I made Aliyah directly to Jerusalem, to Ulpan.
Ah.
Whoa,
we're
they're
familiar.
celebrating their 70-something anniversary?
75th, I think.
75th anniversary this
Yeah.
week.
Which is
Yeah.
such a great Ulpan, I have to say.
Oh, wow.
Like,
What was your
I-
experience like? Wow.
I
Ziva.
loved it. Yeah.
Famous Ziva.
I think it was absolutely necessary, and one of the reasons why I probably stayed in Israel, because I was so lost when I came here. Like I didn't know. I had this idealistic idea of Aliyah, and I had no idea what to expect. I didn't speak a word of Hebrew. Like
Yeah.
I didn't nothing except like maybe Shalom Toda. That's it.
Wow.
And everyone, because I didn't go to Jewish school.
Right.
And so I kind of end up in this Ulpan. I'm in Kita Aleph, and they help you do everything, right? Bureaucracy and
Right,
and
it's an absorption center.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was really helpful also making friends and like finding my way. So I had some of my best times in Ulpan.
That's awesome. Were you there for 5 months or you did another session?
No, I was there for just for the 5 months. And I made Aliyah directly to Jerusalem. I've been here for 6 years. Never left.
Wow.
Wow.
Everyone's always like, "Don't you want to leave Jerusalem?" I'm like, "No, why would I?"
Right, definitely not.
Like
Yeah.
this is the best place ever.
Right.
Well, what made you choose Jerusalem?
I've always loved Jerusalem, and I think Jerusalem has so much soul, And I once wrote this poem about Jerusalem about how I compare it as like a lover. Like she's had all these lovers throughout the years, and everyone always kills each other to get her. Like they literally split blood
Yeah.
for her attention or
It's like a Shakespeare play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's just like, I just feel like she doesn't care. She's like, whatever, like fight over me type thing.
Right.
And I think, I always say, like people will be like, oh, maybe I don't like Jerusalem or I do like Jerusalem. I said, Jerusalem only loves you if you love it back.
That's so true.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. I really
That should be our
believe
new
that.
motto.
Yeah, it is my motto. Like it only
Wow.
loves you if you love it back, because otherwise, she's like, you don't want me, I don't want you, and I'm gonna make it difficult for you.
Right.
So it's like she's kind of like moody, and but she's so special, and she has so much mystery and like treasure in her streets, and I found it has so much character. Like I grew up in Toronto. Why, if I want to I don't need to live in Tel Aviv. I can live in Toronto.
Right.
But like Jerusalem is so different, and that's what I love about it.
Wow.
Special. I want to ask you, you said you worked for the consulate there and the
Yeah.
embassy. What was like the atmosphere there? Like amongst Israelis, and you're like as a Torontonian,
Yeah.
and you're the representing Israel, but in Toronto.
Yeah.
Like how was that? That was like your first real initial like connection to Israelis and the community and the atmosphere and the culture.
Yeah, so I never really felt like I belonged in Toronto. I felt like as a
Okay.
Sephardic Jew, maybe you can relate to this.
Right.
I felt a little bit, I was a little bit put to the side sometimes. Like they didn't really know what my culture was, what my things that we do, our habits and whatnot. So
Our customs, definitely.
exactly.
Right, we have like one main shul, like, the Kila Center.
Exactly.
It's not like
and it was
Montreal,
too far
right.
for me to go there on
Right.
holidays. So, most of the time growing up in a very Ashkenazi community, I felt like I didn't belong.
Right.
So when I came into the consulate, I that was the first moment I was like, oh, I actually belong here, because they were like, oh, you're not Canadian. You're
Right.
like you're like us.
You're one of us. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's true. Even the Ashkenazim, or like the people who come from the Israelis who are European, because they've melted so
Yeah.
much into the Israeli society that has adapted from all cultures.
100%.
So that they're able to speak like some like kapara. That's
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
Arabic word.
Yeah.
No one knows that.
Yeah.
That's an Arabic word. Hummus is Arabic food. It's Middle Eastern. That's where we
Yeah.
come from. I always remind people, like Avram Avinu came from Iraq. Moshe Rabbeinu came from Egypt.
Yeah, we are Middle
Mordechai and
Eastern
Esther are
people.
Persian.
Sephardi's are the OG.
It's true.
We love Ashkenazim. We love. Oh my God, they're the best. especially,
Absolutely.
That's why I went to
Brothers and
Chabad growing
sisters.
up. Actually, we went to Chabad.
Yeah.
Because that's just like a microcosm of all Jewish people together. But you're right. I definitely feel what you experienced of being put on the side a little bit because Sephardic Jews. I think Montreal is a little bit different, but Toronto, you are right. So that
Absolutely.
was your first experience of like.
Yeah, I loved it. I felt like they were my family. I felt like I absolutely loved every single person that I worked with, and I still do. And I was and that's what made me, I was like, it really secured my decision to
identity,
move to
yeah.
Israel. And they were all super supportive. They were all super happy for me. I mean, some of them did tell me, we'll see in 1 year if you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
handle it.
Right.
Now I'm like 6 years later. Let's go.
That's so true.
You're
Wow.
like repping Jerusalem also.
And you brought your family. So
Yeah,
look at
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
Wow.
So now, when you got to Israel, Panei Tzion, were you still like doing social media at the time, or you were trying to figure out?
So I had just started my own social media, like Israel with Cindy, and I remember I got like 100 followers on the first day. They were all my friends, but I was
Okay.
like, oh, I got this.
Nice. This
And
was
then
separate from the embassy, right?
This was separate, yeah,
Okay.
at this point. And then it stayed like 100 for like a year.
Oh wow. Okay.
But basically, my social media, I had 700 followers for almost 4 years. And that's not even a joke. Like I was doing it for me, and I enjoyed it, and I was having fun. And then in literally 1 year, it kind of blew up, and then it went to 3,000, and then after 3,000, it blew up to like what it is now.
Wow.
So
What
Do
was
you know
that?
why? Yeah.
Yeah.
why? Well, I mean, I have this. I do social media consulting now, and one of the big things that I believe in is that social media takes a lot of time, and
Yeah.
the foundation. It's like building a home. You have to build the foundation. You have to allow people to trust you, right? And so you're gonna stay on low numbers for a while, and you need to have that consistency and that
Yeah,
drive.
you're
to-
building your brand and the
Yeah,
trust.
exactly.
for
So,
sure.
and I think also like I was much better with reels. So when that kind of
Yeah.
blew up, it became a lot
Yeah,
easier
yeah, yeah,
to
for
become
sure.
Right.
someone.
Yeah.
Do you think the social media helped you settle into Israel more, make it more comfortable for you? Because
Or I would even say like finding things to do in Jerusalem, because I'm assuming for your videos you also want to show people different like places to eat and places to go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like that kind of also gives you an excuse to do your research.
Yes. So at the beginning, it was a way to really let out my tension and my frustration against the Israeli
Yeah.
system.
okay,
It was
that's
mostly like making fun of bureaucracy
Yeah.
and like just not knowing what to, exactly like not
Yeah.
knowing what to do, but also showing. It was a way of making me feel less lonely, I think, at the beginning, because
Yeah.
it was very difficult
Right.
at the beginning. Just the loneliness was difficult. And then while I was sharing things, I felt like I was sharing that part of my life that people at home could
People relate to it.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Like it's like you're
Yeah.
doing it to feel less lonely, but I think you're also giving people that feeling too, that they don't feel alone. So it's like
Exactly.
that win-win.
Right. Me, Michal, we get this a lot from Olim, that the process is exciting when you start,
Yeah.
but when you finally get here,
It's like,
it's and you're alone. Let's say
It's
you're not
hard.
married.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
yeah.
And they turn to us, like a lot of them turn to us. I know Michal gives like full attention to people. Sometimes, I could work on that much better.
It's okay. Sometimes I'm with Olim for like 2.5 hours. The day goes by.
Like, even the elderly, they're here alone. Like,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
of them don't have partners or whatever it is.
I think when they see other Olim, even us in our position, right? We're Olim ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see, like, you did it. You're in a great place. You did it. You're in a great place.
Yeah, I had tons of people message me being like, like your blog gives me hope or help me in my
That's
Aliyah
amazing.
purpose, and I think that's because we're all struggling in our own way, and some people have a harder time with the conflict, and some people just have a hard time with their loneliness, or
Yeah.
some people it's the language.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is a country made up of Olim, so we can all help each other
Exactly.
in really a way that will help us advance.
Yeah.
But
I think that's also what's special about Jerusalem and Israel, that Olim really help each other.
I think specifically in Jerusalem.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
Because
biased.
we have the biggest Anglo community of all Olim
Yeah.
in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just think
that's
people are
really
nicer in Jerusalem.
You
I
think
don't know
so?
if that's just
Really?
me.
Wow.
Yeah. I think so. Like, I have gone to Gan Saker and
Yeah.
people have just invited me for Shabbat.
Wow.
That's
Well,
never
that's
happened to
because
me in
you're
Tel
famous.
Aviv.
You're famous,
No, it
yeah.
was before I was famous.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
yeah,
amazing.
like I would just go, because at the beginning I wanted to make friends, and And so
Right.
I remember when my brother and my sister were here, and we were all single at the time, and we didn't have any friends, and we would just go to Ganseka, and my brother would be like, let's go talk to Israelis. I'm like, that's embarrassing. I'm not doing
it's
that.
hard.
And he's like, no, let's do it. And he's very friendly, and I was like, oh, kill me now.
Right.
So we would go up to these people and just be like, אנחנו עולים חדשים,
Right.
like we don't have any friends, help us. And people in Jerusalem were so kind,
Wow.
and literally we got some invites, like
Wow.
come to Shabbat, come to our shul, come to this. It's never happened to me in
Okay.
Tel Aviv.
Wow. Okay.
Side note.
Wow.
There's no gun soccer in Tel Aviv. That's right. Maybe.
That's true. There's the beach,
The
but
beach,
there's no
right.
gun soccer.
That's
No
what I
one
also tell
invites you,
people
they
who
just
make
ask you
Aliyah. Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I tell people who make Aliyah, you want a beach so much. It's 18 minutes, 20 minutes from
A little bit more.
Okay, what, like 20 minutes on
Yeah.
the Yitzhak
Yeah,
Navon
it's a really
train
easy train
straight
ride.
to
Yeah,
Tel
but I
Aviv?
never go to Tel Aviv. I don't think I've been in a year.
Wow, באמת?
I mean, I go visit my nephew,
Yeah.
and then I don't leave.
Wow,
Like, I don't go
wow.
out.
Yeah, it's hard with the heat.
I have a special relationship with Jerusalem.
Okay, so you're
I can't
really
leave.
you're a real committed lover to your love of Jerusalem.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to find women like that who are committed through thick and thin.
Wow.
It's a lucky man you got.
Yeah, it's, and I also say about the Aliyah is that you don't choose the Aliyah chooses you.
Okay, wow. What do you mean?
I truly believe that you don't really have a choice. Like once it comes to you, you're like,
That's true, it's hard to
oh
forget
no, oh no, it's happening.
Right,
And
it
then
creeps in.
you everything pulls you towards here. And
Right.
and it's, for me, it wasn't a choice. Like once I had that revelation, that's it, it's done. I need to be here. And I feel like I didn't choose it. And same thing with Jerusalem. Like I felt like it chose me.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I can say that I made Aliyah when I was in my gap year in seminary, and there were a lot of other girls my year that also wanted to make Aliyah, but they chose the route of going back and doing college.
Yeah.
And just like you're saying that it sticks with you and it creeps up on you and
It
it's
does.
always coming up, like since the war, we have had a huge increase of Olim actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of these people that went back for university. Some of them stuck it out to the end and then they came, but some even mid-degree are coming and they're saying, you know what? Azov, like I'll finish my degree here. I'm gonna
Crazy.
pick it up here. And
Right.
I really think it's something that
Admirable. It's
Yeah.
tough. I don't know if
Yeah.
I would have the strength to do that.
it's very
mid-degree.
tough. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but later on they want to come with their families.
that
And
too.
then
I
that's
mean, they
much-
bring their
yeah, they
families
bring
one
their
by
families.
one.
Yeah, like I did. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with its hardships, but
Yeah.
it just means that I tell people this also when it comes to the army. You know,
Right.
a lot of people message me, tell me, how do you know that you wanted to volunteer?
Right.
And I said, at the end of the day, only you can make that decision, and it's kind of what you need to have that willpower to say, okay, like, am I going to dedicate my life to being here? And at the same time, you know, I had a hard time with the forever of
Right.
it. So I remember, like, at the time I went to my therapist and I was like, I can't do, like, I can never come back. I don't want to be like my mom who never went back to Tunisia.
Right.
And she's like, you can always come back, like, even for like a week or whatever.
Right.
She's like, you don't have to take it as a forever. You can take it as like a one day at a time.
Oh, wow,
Right,
that's good.
very true.
And that really helped me to be like, okay, like just one day at a time. And it's been 6 years, still one day at a time.
It's still one day at a time. That's perfect. That's how it
Exactly.
is. That's how it is. It's a really good way of thinking about it.
What was your army experience like? Because you started bringing that up a bit. I'm curious, as a woman, as a religious woman, what it's
Yeah.
like to be in the army.
It was interesting. I mean, the army was some of the best and worst times of my life.
Oh,
I feel
wow.
like everyone says that.
Yeah.
But it was like the times where I laughed the most, but cried the most. It was, as a religious woman, I really, like, I think they did great in terms of like, I didn't feel any issues, you know, everything, what's the word?
You were accommodated.
Accommodated, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I was accommodated anything I wanted, you know, praying in the morning, kosher,
Amazing.
Shabbat, like there was
That's
really no
amazing, wow.
issue. Yeah, I was really impressed by that.
Why did you decide to go? Like, what inspired you? You didn't have to serve.
No.
Especially as a religious woman, you don't
Yeah,
have
and
to
I was a
serve,
bit
right?
old too. I drafted when I was 24.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
They called me the Safta. Should I say?
Really? That's like
Embarrassing.
warrior princess right here. Look at that.
Like there was a funny story at one point when I was in the army. They like had this survey and they asked people their age, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Shem, why?
Right.
And so they're like, who's here is 18? And all the 18-year-olds, you know, and then like, 19.
They're like, Cindy, why are you
Esrim. And I'm
raising
like,
your hand?
and then they're like, 21? And I'm like, oh no. And then a few people, you know, and there was 22,
Right.
and then they get to 23, and they're like,
Okay. then-
Cindy hasn't answered yet. And I was like, and they're like, 24? I'm like, hello. And everyone's like, oh my God, so bad.
Wow.
It is what it is.
Were you single at the time?
I was single at the time. Oh no, I was not. I was in a relationship.
Really? Wow. Because I was
Um,
wondering, like, if you weren't single, meaning now you weren't, like, would you have served?
So I wasn't single.
Right.
I had met my boyfriend at Open
Sion.
Open.
Wow.
Yeah, we were together for 3 years. So it's quite
Wow.
quite a long
Apparently,
relationship.
this is what Ziva told me.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like married couples, come out of this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say they have 2 goals: learn Hebrew and meet your.
Yeah, that's Ziva's goal for sure.
Yeah.
I think because they're lonely, maybe.
It works. You're both in
Right.
the same
That's
situation,
awesome.
Right.
and you both lost. You have no
Right.
idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
So and you're together all the time. So,
Okay, Michal, we got to spread this. This is a
good
nice
shidduch.
Aliyah thing. A segula, no more 40 days at the kotel. Anyone who wants to get married, single,
Go to Ulpanatzion.
come to Panetzion.
I had so many people get married in my Open
Okay,
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
like with each other.
Oh,
It
wow.
was,
Crazy.
but it's great, And
Yeah.
so I wasn't single, and I still did it, and I think it was very difficult on our relationship as well. I also was like not the best version of myself because I was really stressed and
Right.
I was never here. So it was difficult, a lot of pressure on him, I think, but
And he didn't serve.
I wanted to no.
Okay.
I wanted to do it because I always believed in it. I knew I wouldn't be 100% integrated unless I went to the army, and it was really something that I believed in. So I drafted into the spokesperson's unit into the Vertzal, and I was doing social media.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, so I was on French team, English team, and mainly a video editor.
Wow.
So
That's great.
yeah,
That's
that
really,
was.
what did you do, like, exactly?
So most of the time, like this was before TikTok and Instagram Reels, so all
Okay.
our videos
Right.
were horizontal.
Wow.
Okay, they were not
Yeah.
vertical.
Yeah.
And I remember when we had to, towards the end of my service, they asked me to do like vertical, and I was like, ew, no, like I'm not doing that. But so most of the videos that you would have seen all the videos that you would have seen in English or French, me and my team had edited. So it was like a team of video editors.
Okay.
And it was all, basically explaining Israel and the struggle to the world.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And like from the IDF's perspective.
Do you feel like now with everything on social media and October 7th and the war and all of the hasbara that they're doing now, is it something that you feel like you connect to more because you've been on that side of like the editing and the videoing?
I admire them so much because I've been there, and I know like the 12-hour shifts and sometimes more, and the crazy migraines. I used to have a migraine every single night.
Wow.
Horrible migraines. And just because you're in front of a computer 24/7 and the mission is important and you know why you're doing it, and I can definitely relate to them, but it's a very difficult job because you're basically you're fighting a losing battle.
Right.
And you know that the other side has a lot more people and they have a lot more resources, and we're just like this small team, and we're like
power team.
It's like literally David versus Goliath, like,
Yeah.
to some extent.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this one, and it's my opinion, we're kind of losing the media war.
Yeah.
And you can even see the morale a little bit, like for Jews outside.
Yeah, no, and it
affects them, yeah.
It's very hard to compete when we are literally, how many million in the world? Like
Right.
not even, we're 12 million, right? And then you have who's fighting the media war for us, like not even half. And then, so we're like this really like a few thousands of people fighting a media war versus, you'll have Indonesia alone.
Right,
It's
millions.
like millions of people.
Right.
And they're out there,
Honestly, though, I feel like part of this like social media war is about us giving like that morale boost to other Jews and other Olim and Israelis.
100%.
And honestly,
Definitely.
like for me at this point, I think in the beginning it was all about, are they seeing the videos that we're making? Are they seeing all the points we're making? And for me, it's also like, you know what? For us as Jews, as people who need it ourselves, I think it's so chazak. And like
100%.
I noticed that Nefesh B'Nefesh recently had like a influencer meetup, right? You were there? Mm-hmm. So like that, for example, like that's so awesome. You get to meet other influencers. All of you guys, even you're doing different topics and different tchumim. It's like you're still all there, to be a spokesperson for the Jewish people.
And to be honest, that's been more of my angle since, obviously since October 7th, I've had a lot of like explanatory videos, but I just don't think it matters at this point because there are people who do that. The IDF does that. Foreign ministry does that. But I want to be a source of Jewish joy for Jews. Like I want to be a place where they feel like they're not alone, or that at the end of the day we can't let them take our joy away from us. And I think that's what I really want to focus on, because I don't care. This has happened for thousands of years. It's always the same thing.
Yeah.
Always going to come for us. Now it's in the form of social media. In one way.
Right.
Okay, so let them speak. We need to strengthen ourselves, and we need to strengthen our unity, that's the most important thing, I think, for me at this point.
100%.
Are you also sending out messages about Aliyah in the sense of, hey Jews, it's time to come back?
I'm not, because I think that Aliyah is a very personal journey,
Okay.
and I don't want to convince anyone in a bad way or
Right.
whatnot. Anyone who wants to do Aliyah is more than welcome to, and I think that's a great decision. I also think they need to be aware of what they're coming to, right?
Correct.
And just be, really think about all of their angles. Like, am I going to leave now? Is it going to work for me? Because there is a lot of people who just, okay, let's go, and then they go back. And I do know a lot of those people.
Yeah.
And so I want people to make like a really informed decision. And so I won't influence people and, come home. I've said it a few times, like, come home. But at the same time, like, if you can't handle the things going on here, then maybe it's better if you don't.
Wait a little bit.
Yeah.
You wait a
100%.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So post-army now, because I know the army is like another stage of Israeli life, especially for Olim, like making new friends.
Yeah.
It's a new family, new relationships. Now, when you leave the army, you served for 2 years? What is it, 3 years?
A year and a half, yeah.
A year and a half, yeah.
So I was old.
Then you'll really be the size.
you're a warrior princess. Look at me, man. Michal served in another way, because it counts.
I did Shirt Lumi.
Shirut Lumi,
Amazing.
that's huge. That's
I don't know all the
amazing.
army slang, but yeah.
So like you did Shirut Lumi, Michal
It's
did
just
Shirut
as
Lumi.
important.
You were like a soldier. I was like, a nice
Canadian
Jewish
You're
boy in
doing
New
your
York
part now.
City, in
You're
Washington
bringing
Heights.
Jewish people to
Yeah,
the
so now
Holy
working
Spirit.
here for the
We're all.
government.
I once knew someone. It was like this commander guy, and he used to say we are all a part of the Jewish army, and how we
Right.
play is all different, but we all have our role. So
That's
Yeah.
right,
we're all
okay.
part of it.
Am I? Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, awesome. Makes me feel so much better. No, but it's a real blessing that you got to give yourself over to the Jewish people like that.
Yeah.
And also Shirut Lumi, definitely, But post-army or post-Shirut Lumi, that's when real life, I guess, hits. Because now that's it.
100%.
What did you do after?
Yeah.
And I started writing a book actually about, it's a fiction book, but it really represents, kind of like the from army to post army. I think when you leave the army, all of a sudden you belong to the state, right? When you're in the army, you have
Yeah.
a number and you can't do what you want. You don't have freedom, you have to ask your commanders for everything. And you leave the army and all of a sudden you're free. And you're like, oh, well, what do I do? Who am I? Like, you give back your number and all of a sudden you have a name.
Right.
And you're just like, okay, I need to figure out who I am. I specifically went through this journey of, okay, I don't want to put myself in a situation where I don't like what I do anymore, right? Okay. I don't want to do things that make me sad or whatever. So I had to really rethink my entire life because I had a whole plan before the army, and then I decided, oh, never mind.
What was your plan?
That's not for me. So I wanted to go into Israeli politics.
Okay, really? Wow, nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
continuing in that path of like
Yeah.
the embassy,
Exactly.
Hillel, all
Yeah.
You're
that.
actually
And then
not
I-
alone. Our previous guests also
Oh,
have
really?
said that. I think.
But then I decided
It's
I
part of
wanted to.
everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to, it's
Yeah.
that Jewish making a change.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I decided I wanted to be happy.
Okay, great.
And I didn't want to live a miserable
Oh, that's
existence
great.
in politics where everyone hates you.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? That's really not for me. I thought about the foreign ministry, and then I felt like it wasn't right. So I was still doing social media at that point, and I had maybe like 1,000, 2,000 followers because I wasn't posting when I was in the army, mostly because I couldn't. And so after that, I started working as a video editor. Just randomly, and I didn't like it, and I decided, okay, you know what? I think and that's when I continued my social media as well on the side, and then it just kind of grew from itself. But I never went towards it. It kind of creeped up on me. I feel like
nice.
everything in my life creeps
just
up on
coming
me.
That's amazing because
how
you're getting
did
the
you-
messages right to you, which is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It's the connection with the.
Wow, it's great.
So
connection.
your like social life in that time period, how did you meet people? Did you already know people? Were you just going out and talking to strangers?
Post army.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. Yeah, I was living with my sister at the time, and I didn't really have a lot of. I had my friends from Ulpan, and then I had my friends from the army, but my friends from Ulpan already starts to. Everyone moves out in a different place, right? No one really stayed. Not a lot of people stayed in Jerusalem. So whoever left, I didn't really get a chance to speak with them all that much. My army friends were very young. They were like 19 years old, and they all continued in the army. So all of a sudden, you're right, I have to find a new friend group. And then I kind of did through the content creation. I just basically like start, we would message each other back and forth, and then we started meeting each other, and then we had the influencer days, and then that's how I kind of built my community from people, from
online
people,
community.
from people.
Yeah.
From Open to this. It's a bit of a mix today.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
What would your advice be for single Jewish girls who are making Aliyah
Oh, I had so many reels
to
about
dating
that.
here in Jerusalem? Because like in the army, I assume like
Yeah,
dating
there
is
was
really
no-
hard.
Yeah.
Unless like you're dating your commander.
No, I don't think you can date. If I wasn't, I think if I wasn't already dating, I wouldn't be able to meet anyone. Also, I was in the Weltzal, so everyone was like gay or a woman. There were no eligible men.
Eligible
it was
men,
just,
okay, great.
and they were like 18.
Okay,
It's a
We're
good.
gonna cut this out, but I just want to say this. That's like cougar style. You can throw
Yeah.
it in. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could.
Okay, we can put that in.
No, maybe. I don't know.
She's the editor. She's the editor.
Oh, you have to edit this. Oh, so sorry for. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so my advice for single women who coming to do Aliyah, I think.
For dating.
Yeah, for dating.
Yeah.
So I actually use dating as a really good stepping stone into getting to know people. And I think that was a really, really good way of doing that, just because that's how I made a lot of my friends as well.
Right.
So it's hard to just come up to people and be like, can we be friends? Yeah. But you can do that with dating. So you just go on the app, like have a date. Right. And then it might not work out, but then you stay friends, or maybe they'll bring you... Maybe they'll bring you to a party or something like that. And so for me, I would just say like date a lot.
Right.
And then friend zone everyone very quickly.
no, not necessarily. But so that was the friend aspect.
Right.
But in terms of the dating itself, I think you just have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Which would like dating everywhere. It's a very exhausting. It's very exhausting. It's horrible.
Right.
I hate the dating world.
Not just unique to Israel.
Yeah, it's a really horrible world out there, and I can really relate. Like, I feel like sometimes when people get married, they forget what it was like to be single.
Right.
I have not forgotten. Like, it is it's the trenches in there, and and it's that feeling of like loneliness. Like, does anyone want me? Does anyone understand me? And especially when you come to Israel and you have that language barrier.
Yeah.
The good thing about dating in Israel is that Israelis love dating
international girls,
international women. May it be for the passports or other things. I don't know.
It's like sounds like the Israeli men who go to America to date the American girls for the green card.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
To me, they'd be like, Canadit.
It's not
But there is no green card.
Right.
No.
No.
I'm so sorry.
Right.
But essentially, right. So they really do love that. But I think there's that struggle also because Israeli women are a bit tougher, I would say. Yeah. And Olim are just like nicer, maybe, just like a bit more chill. But I would just, I don't even know if I have dating advice at this point. Like, I think it's just the same thing everywhere for everyone. It's like...
But for you as an Ola, you're an Anglo speaker. Did you relate more to the guys who are Anglo speaking? Like the Anglo community in Jerusalem is a big one and a lot of singles. Or you were okay, like I'm going to delve in also to the Israelis right now.
I always felt like I related more to the Israelis.
Okay, wow.
And because I think I dated my fair share of Anglos in Canada.
Right.
And then I also dated a bunch of French speakers as well.
Right.
And I always felt like in those two cultures I would never perfectly fit.
Yeah.
But I like the Israeli chillness of it all. And I think everybody has their own thing, right? So so some of my friends prefer the English, some of my friends prefer the French. Whatever, it is what it is. I liked that really calming attitude, you know, and I think I needed that. And then they understood me better as well because I was so not Canadian and I was so not French, but I also was really of those things. So because Israelis are already a salad, then I'm a salad.
Right. So it was a nice
nice
warming,
kale.
I like
kale, sweet
kale
potato,
spinach
pumpkin.
with a little bit of pumpkin seeds.
Absolutely, but a cheese.
No, that's for sure.
So how did all of this eventually meet, Jewish Matchmaking, the Netflix show? Like, at what point in your dating stage did that come up?
So, I had just gotten out of a my very serious relationship, and I was not necessarily in the best place. So I decided to put really all my energy in social media, and this is really where it really took off. And I started posting a lot about being a single Jewish woman.
Okay.
And that's how essentially and then I ended up receiving an email
They
from
found
the
you.
casting person. It's like, oh, we saw this reel. And I was like, oh no. And I thought it was a spam. I really did. I ignored it. And then I received another email, and then I saw the credentials were accurate because I went
Right.
on LinkedIn. And so I applied. I was like, I'm definitely not gonna get in.
Yeah.
So I didn't worry, stress, or anything about it. I was like, I'm just gonna have fun through it.
Okay.
And then I got in. So
Wow.
yeah.
What was that
Pretty crazy.
like?
It was amazing. It was really an amazing experience, like one in a lifetime type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And also kind of scary because, sometimes Netflix doesn't have the best track record with Jews.
Right.
And I was afraid that it was going to be, like a pariah type situation. But no, thank God we had some great producers, and Aliza was great as well. So
Right.
it ended up being a very nice, accurate representation of what it was. So I'm very grateful to that for sure.
So you met your husband separate from the show.
I did.
How long after the show?
About 2 months.
2 months after the show, you
We
guys
were
met?
also like match made, but not
Oh,
by
wow.
Aliza.
Really? Wow.
Well, it was I at the time I was working for an organization called Brothers for Life, which is
Okay.
injured IDF soldiers helping other IDF soldiers.
Wow.
And one of the members, drove me back to Jerusalem, and he was like, you have a boyfriend? I was like, classic. And I'm like, no. And then
Yeah.
he's like, I have someone. I'm like, I know how this works. Like, whenever
Right.
someone tries to introduce you, it's always a catastrophe. Like, it's
Yeah.
always, you look at the photo and you're like, what were you thinking?
Right.
Or like, you're like, how is this ever gonna match? So I'm like, okay, whatever. He just wants to like put me with some random dude. And then he sends me like the information in the photo, and I'm like, not bad.
Yeah. He
But
wears tefillin. I heard you once say a quote.
yeah, he does
Tefillin
wear
is hot.
It is.
Yeah. That's a
the
quote by you,
actual
right?
That's
quote?
that's a quote by
Amazing.
me. Said it straight Netflix.
Live.
And
It's a
they were
Cindy quote. Tefillin is hot,
Tefillin
and you
is
better
hot.
have abs.
Yes. No abs, no Cindy.
So Cindy.
Oh, wow. That's what it is. Wow.
Iconic.
Awesome. See, you're a Jewish woman who knows what she wants. That's very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's important too because, and this is one of the things that they cut out on the show, but one of the main things for me was, I know what I want, and it's important for me to have it. And I think as well, especially in the Jewish matchmaking world for women, they kind of take away that physical aspect, and they say, it's not important. You'll learn to love the person or whatever. But there needs to be initial
100% you need
physical
attraction.
Yeah, 100%.
1000% attraction. Whoever tells you they don't, I don't know, something's off
Something's-
there.
yeah.
Or they're lying.
Or they just want to set you up like
Right.
randomly and they don't care. But
Right.
so a lot of I think in the religious community especially, like they just kind of tell you whatever, like you'll be fine type thing. And for me, and I had tried it, I tried to make myself believe it, and I was like, it's just not working. And I was really struggling with that. So I said those things on the show, and I said that was important. That's where the no abs, no Cindy
Right.
came
Yeah.
in. And then they just cut the rest and kind of left that because it was an iconic
No,
line.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, of course.
You should be very proud of yourself, honestly.
Thank you.
Because it's something that's so meaningful. They give guys a hard time about this,
Yeah.
and they trap women not to think like it, but definitely think. No, it's true.
But I feel like there's more leeway for men. Like it's
Yeah.
like you have,
in
you
the
know, are you
religious
attracted
world,
to her?
kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So what was your first date?
So the
Well, how'd you
initial,
meet him? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the initial story, the long story, quote unquote, is so we were speaking on the phone, but I kind of blew him off at the very beginning because he was a bit slow to ask me out, and I was like, I don't have time for this, and I was dating.
Where is
other
he from?
people.
He's Israeli?
He's Israeli, so he's
okay,
from
wow.
he's from Jerusalem,
Okay.
and he's like the very very typical Israeli, but not the like us Israeli.
Just
No,
for
no.
people who don't know, an arse is basically a
I'm
really
curious how you're gonna
good-looking,
describe this.
good-looking,
They wear the big chai
big
necklaces.
thighs. They're the
Omer
Genos
Adam.
of America,
They eat a lot
but
of
in
falafel.
Israel.
That's what it is.
Greasy hair, Sephardi, big hearts,
Heart of gold.
heart of golds, big hearts, loving, but a tough exterior.
Yes.
Or maybe they put a facade of a tough exterior, but they're attractive men.
It's true.
Yeah.
So my husband is not that. I mean, he is attractive, thank God. But he's very quiet and like, "Kol beseder," you know, type of person that like went out on October 8th and like went to go get groceries and was like, oh, yeah, people were kind of silent. I was like,
Right.
yeah, you would think. And so he's just like a very calm person. But so he took a while to ask me out, and I didn't have time. I was already dating other people. I was dating multiple people at once.
Really?
Yeah, but like not
Really?
like
Wow.
seriously
No,
dating.
but
Like
just
first few days.
Try and go.
Yeah.
Is that
and
something
then,
that women usually
Yeah.
do? Did you do that?
yeah, we don't have time to waste.
Personally, no, but people do that all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes, right, if you're going to wait a month and then it
Right.
doesn't work out, then you have to, you're wasting your
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
if you get them all like
I'm
an interview.
so naive.
We're talking about the first few dates, yeah,
The
not
first
like
few
5
days.
months
So
in.
naive.
The
Wow.
first few
Boyfriend.
days, and then
Really?
you know, okay, this
Yeah.
one's no, this one's yes. So then I had ended up liking this person, and I was
Wow.
like, I'm gonna go with,
Right.
I'm gonna date this person, and then I
Yeah.
got rid of
All of
my
them.
now husband. And I saw him at one point, and then a few months later, literally maybe 6 months later, I see him at the office because he's also a member of the organization, and I see he comes and he's just like chilling, and I'm like, I know this guy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the guy I blew up. And I was like I what's the word? That's the guy I
Blew off.
Blew
yeah.
off,
Blew
yeah.
off.
Not blew up.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's the guy I blew off. And then I'm like, wait a minute, he's good looking. And I was like, I think I messed up. So and then I go up to him, and I was like really awkward in my conversation because I was thinking about everything that happened, and I was like messing up my Hebrew, and then I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, yeah, I'm okay, like I broke my shoulder, and I was like, that's great.
Wow.
And then he's like, what? And I'm like, oh God, like it was just a mess.
Right.
I go home, I'm like, this guy's never gonna want to talk to me again. And I ended up going to a lot with the organization. And they brought all of their, like a lot of their members, and he was there, and he thought I had a boyfriend. And I was like, why is he not interested in me? Like, this is annoying. Like, he's
Yeah.
not giving me attention. And then the guy who match made us was like, well, he knows you have a boyfriend. Like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I don't. So then ended up being like, we ended up speaking the entire night,
Nice.
and then that's how it happened. So
Wow.
Very
yeah.
nice.
Look at that. Look how a show works. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, you're not ready yet, but you will be in a few months.
Wow.
And you guys got married recently?
We got married in November.
Wow,
November
that's awesome.
8th.
It's
Yeah.
fast. You're coming on to your first year.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a
Wow.
war wedding, which is
How was that? Yeah.
It was very difficult. We need to have 50 people, and so
Well,
we
it
had to,
reminds you of Corona weddings.
yeah,
honestly.
it was like a Corona wedding, and
Yeah.
we had like just a buffet, and we had to cut everything out. I had to cancel my henna. I canceled all the,
Oh, wow.
I had to basically replan my entire wedding in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So my photographer canceled, everyone canceled, and then it was like a last minute thing. But we didn't want to change the date because we just thought if that's the date we chose, then we'll
Nice.
keep going.
Right.
And we wanted to bring some like good into the world. But it was difficult, I think, for me personally to find joy in these moments. And I struggled very much with like being a joyful bride. I
Yeah.
was not. I felt very sad and I was like crying all the time because of the situation. Everyone I knew was in Miluim.
Right.
And I wasn't in Miluim, and they were like, no, don't come. You have to, get ready for your wedding type thing. And so it was very, very difficult. And I had to really, like, I think just put my faith in God and just like, I had stopped looking at the news for 2 weeks, and it was just, it wasn't fun.
It's a
but
hard
then,
situation.
but then when the wedding itself happened, it was really special. And it was really special just to have like 50 people, and we were all singing like Imish Kacher Yerushalayim,
Wow. I'm sure that was super
together.
powerful.
It was very powerful, and it was just the people that you love and you really care about. It ended up being a really beautiful wedding. Thank God.
Very fair.
Yeah.
So you were called to Miluim as well?
No, I wasn't called. I had the option to go in.
Okay.
And I didn't because I felt at the time, like I said, I was working for Brothers for Life.
Right.
And then they didn't have anyone else doing their social media. So I felt like that was more important.
Right.
So I stayed on with them. But yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
Do you and your husband live in Nachlaot? Yeah?
Yeah,
So what's the difference now? Because you were living in Nachlaot all those years as a single person, right?
it's true.
Do you feel like a difference there?
His main issue is that there's no parking.
Which is
He's
fair.
like,
Yeah.
I want to move out just for that, which is fair. It's interesting. I do, I think, less things now than I used to. I used to go out a lot more, but
Yeah. I also think like when you first come to Israel and Jerusalem, you're like very eager and hyper, and you just want to see everything.
Yeah.
I went to like every single concert that existed when I first made Aliyah. Literally, I tracked down every Israeli artist.
Amazing. That's
and like
incredible.
actually went to every concert.
Awesome.
And now like I can't remember the last time I went to a concert. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you never go to the shuk. I'm like, yeah.
Right?
I'm over
And he's
it.
like, you live 5 minutes away. Yeah. I've done it.
Yeah. Wow. Something I was really surprised to see you on is one of these, new Ulpan things that came about called Hebrew Bite, which is like an online Ulpan. I mean, I'm sure you can tell us more about it, but all of a sudden I see you on the Ulpan. I'm like, this girl's on Netflix, she's on my Instagram, and now she's on Ulpan. What's going on?
On my bus. She's also on your bus.
Please shed light on that topic.
I'm just following her everywhere I go. So I've just recently started working with the Ministry of Klita in their new project of called Hebrew Bite. It's a new series called Becoming Israeli, and it's so they're launching an online Ulpan, and essentially I do all the tips and tricks of what it means to be a new Ola or Ole. And they reached out to me because, I think they really heard what people were saying about how difficult it is to be an Olim. And it's not enough to have like the normal, classic Ulpan.
Right.
Like, okay, here, shalom. It's just, okay, we need like the tachlis. And so they really wanted like a humoristic kind of feel free, do your thing, like
informal.
show us what you struggled with.
Right.
And it's really authentic. So I've been having a lot of fun just making videos about Israeli bureaucracy.
Right.
I'm about to go film one in the shuk, like how to shop in Israel.
nice.
I did, what to wear, what to give at weddings, like how to go to the bank, and all these things that like I wish someone would have told me.
Yeah.
So I'm doing all their English videos for them, and there's also a French one as well with my coworker, and it's been really fun. So I hope people can, not struggle as much as I did at the beginning.
So are you still learning Hebrew yourself, or because your husband, you're kind of
I would say I'm at a good level at this point.
Yeah.
I could have I had my first Hebrew interview. I think it was.
Oh, wow.
I think it was. What's that? Arutz
Arutz Abasra.
Maybe.
Oh wow.
It's a religious one. Which one's the Haredi one?
Arutz Abasra.
So I had that with Jewish matchmaking in Hebrew, and it was very.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it was fun. But I was really proud of myself.
Good job.
That's amazing. Because our office also, we help Olim, not specifically with Ulpan, we direct them to which Ulpan to go to. A lot of people come to our offices and ask for the bureaucratic stuff, the hard stuff that you went through, so we assist them with that, or like finding a place, or even with like Bituach Leumi and everything like that. So I'm not sure our office existed when you made Aliyah, but definitely Michal could also tell you that one of the struggles that they do have is that, and it's okay, they need someone to hold their hand.
Yeah.
They need someone to hold their
Absolutely.
hand. And like through every process, even post first year in Israel or in Jerusalem, that is. And that's what our office is here for, to do. And now that you're like doing this Ulpan bites, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Because we need that also, like,
Yeah.
warm figure that's there. It's not just
You
gonna
have to put a face on it.
Exactly.
It's not just
I
an
think
old
also honestly that's part of like the point of our office. Like me and you and our other coworkers, we're all Olim ourselves. So I think honestly the government is kind of like starting to understand that.
100%.
Having like people who help you out who are Israeli or Russian or whatever it is, but they're not people that you relate to, it does make it harder and does make it feel more
100%.
lonely. So the more you have people in Hebrew Bite or in, Aliyah offices that are Anglos themselves, people who made
100%.
Aliyah, I think it really helps.
Right, it's like a culture also being able to relate to them culturally. You know?
Understanding them.
And I definitely, I really relate to the Hebrew struggle. Like I said, I would call myself like a Hebrew success story, and it's just basically giving hope to other people, because so many people come to me and they're like, I don't know what to do with the Hebrew, and I'm like, really? You don't understand how many hours I cried when it came to Hebrew. Like, you really don't.
Wow.
But it's okay. Like, you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
And I came in with absolutely zero. I didn't even know. I just knew how to read a little bit, and that's it. And then to being able to being fluent. So it's like, it took time, yes, and I'm still learning, still a lot of words I don't know every time my husband tells me.
Yeah.
But I think, it's a lot about patience and believing in yourself as well.
Right, a lot of that.
A lot of just being kind to yourself as well. I think we're so hard with ourselves with the language, and we don't understand, and just, like I said, like I've cried so many times just being like, you're so stupid, and why can't you get it? And it's not hard. You speak 2 languages already.
Yeah.
You think it'd be easier,
That.
to pick up Hebrew? after learning 2 languages.
I mean, Hebrew doesn't have like so much vocabulary compared to a language like French, which is much harder to learn. And yet it's so hard. But I think it's the alphabet, you know, it's like that, it's completely different alphabet. So it's harder to read and it's harder to write. And so it's all...
and we're only exposed to, like, at least in the Chutz La'aretz, if you don't go to Jewish schools, it's just the tefillot maybe if you go, and just the Kiddush Friday night or other stuff, they are more religious. And here, like, everything is in Hebrew.
Yeah.
But thank God they do speak English in Jerusalem, which is great.
I only hear English in Jerusalem.
Too much, a little bit.
Right? It's not a good place to learn Hebrew here. You got to get out.
Right.
Wow. Do you feel today, you feel like there's a difference? Do you feel more Israeli from when you first came?
Yeah.
You know, how would you describe, like,
for sure. I feel like I was like a little baby, naive, didn't know anything about anything. And I still feel, you know, like I can't really compare my struggle to Israelis. You know, I have no idea what it was like. Like, my childhood was in beautiful Canada, you know, living life in Thornhill with the beautiful, like, fall weather. And my husband was like a second intifada, you know? So it's like, I can't relate to them to such an extent, but at the same time, I do feel like more and more Israeli as the day goes on. Yeah.
That's for sure. If you would have to give one message to people who are thinking about making Aliyah now, let's say people who are yearning, like, you know, we always had that connection, like you said, to Israel. What would that message be about, you know, Jerusalem?
I think...
Post-October 7th. I want to add post-October 7th.
Yeah. I think people... I would tell them to be true to themselves. To also... Once, you know, they've assessed the risks and whatever, they've decided they want to do this, to not let the fear kind of hold them back. I would say what my therapist had told me back in the day, like, one day at a time, you can always go back type thing. Don't have to see it as forever. And I think also this idea of the nice thing about Israel, and, you know, when you walk down the street and you see, I spent the last 3 months in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, and when I was walking through the streets, I felt nothing when I saw people. You know, I was like, something happening right now? I don't know, like, I don't care, basically. Obviously, like, it's sad, but, like, when you walk here down the street, like, I literally physically feel like I know these people, and I feel like I have a connection, and I genuinely care. God forbid something happens, like, I genuinely, like, I have cried for strangers. And so there's this family feeling, and there's a feeling of, like, we're never really alone. And the fact that we all struggle together and we're all in this together, I think, is one of the most beautiful things that we can possibly experience. And so my advice to them would be just to ride the wave. You know, it will be difficult. Write a letter to yourself, essentially. So I wrote a letter to myself called "For the Cindy that will wake up in the middle of the night."
Really? Wow.
And crying and want to go home. And I read it when I'm like, I'm out. You know, I don't want to be here. Why did I come here? Why, you know, and I read it a lot at the beginning of Wolpan when I was, like, feeling very alone. And you have to write down your why. Why are you coming? Why is this important to you? And that way it really grounds you, because things will get more difficult, and you're going to be, like, Israel tests you to the max, and Hashem tests you here. Like, there's no tomorrow to become this perfect diamond that you were supposed to be. And it goes way faster than anywhere else. And so it's going to be a challenge, but have your why, write it down. And if you need to sometimes leave, then leave, and then come back with a clear head. I would say as well, connection to Judaism and connection to God. I mean, not everyone believes, obviously, but that's been really helpful for me. Like, having emunah is...
That keeps you strong,
Yeah, because I think if I didn't have it, like... I'm like, okay, well, then we're all, you know, what's happening to this world?
I also truly believe that, like, Aliyah strengthens you, and it really builds your character. Like, I am not the same person I was before I made Aliyah, and I don't think anyone is. Like, going through all those experiences and having to be more independent and, like, kind of fend for yourself and have that humor and that, you know, that...
You also made Aliyah by yourself,
carefree.
literally. Like, right after high school at age 18. You
Crazy.
And you have all different backgrounds and all different ages. But I think at the end of the day, like, a few years down the line, you're going to see you're such a different person, and for the better.
And I think you notice that when you go back and you speak with your friends back in your
so not on the same page
and they're speaking, and you kind of have this outer experience, and you're like, I can't relate to you anymore. And you're like, wow. and they're like talking about their blender is not working, and you're just like, okay,
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Like
That's
So accurate.
That's so funny.
that's
Yeah,
when you know
true.
you changed.
So Sydney, you're a warrior princess. First
Thank
of
you
all,
so much.
served
I
in the
love that.
Israeli army, fellow Canadian,
Yes.
which is awesome. Thornhill, you know,
Absolutely.
I barely meet anyone from Thornhill, so for me this is like a super honor. This was a big surprise also, and like I just want to say like also to Michal here, you know, we had our last guest. Her name was Chana Boteach from Kosher Sex, and
Great book.
great book, great. She has a store as well. But I just want to say the empowering now of Jewish women in the world is unbelievable. And you as a warrior princess, like I said, social content, representative of the Jewish people, you know, the business
Thank
card to all Jewish people and now hopefully Jewish couples as well.
Thank you.
This is unbelievable. Michal taking care of like the bureaucracy, government, municipality stuff. I'm surrounded by like powerful Jewish leaders.
I mean,
careful.
I think Jewish
it's a
women
feminine
are
energy,
like,
as she said one
yeah,
time.
I think Jewish women are going to save the world.
Okay,
Hell
and
yeah.
here
I
we go.
mean, absolutely.
We're doing it. We're doing it. We're happening. More Jewish women. We got our crew, also some Jewish women in the back there. Awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank
you
you.
inspired me, honestly.
Aw,
Your stories are
that's so
really
sweet.
special,
Thank you.
fun, exciting. I'm so happy now that you have your home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Jerusalem should be not only a home of just you and your husband, but of many kids and generations to come, and a lot of light.
Yeah, you guys have to come to Jerusalem. It's just the best. And the Shabbats here are crazy.
Okay, Shabbats are amazing. Shabbats are amazing.
Especially Nachlaot.
It's a different vibe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different. I love Nachlaot. I live there.
But we are here to help you. But man, at any point,
Thank you.
anything,
Right.
we're here. We're here.
And I'm excited
you up
for
on
the
that.
Sephardic food.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Michal. Sydney, again, from the bottom of our heart. It was our honor to have you here. And
Honored to
that's a
be here.
wrap.
yeah, see you next week.